Hi guys, this is Haylin Danielle bringing you a little information on something called emotional dependency from someone who has been there and lived through it. First of all, what is emotional dependence? I'm going to read a quote by Sue Thiel? Thole? I don't really know. Something like that. Emotional dependence is the opposite of emotional strength. It means needing to have others to survive, wanting others to do it for us, and depending on others to give us our self-image, make our decisions, and take care of us financially. When we are emotionally dependent, we look to others for our happiness, our concept of self, and our emotional well-being. Such vulnerability necessitates a search for and dependence on outer support for a sense of our own worth. So to try to make it a little easier to understand, it reminds me of an episode from a show I used to watch when I was a teenager. It was kind of a hero versus villains show, and there was this one stranger who came to town. He seemed like a perfectly normal guy. He started showing interest in this one girl, and he was the first to show interest in her in a while. So she really needed that attention and someone to need her and want her. So that was a vulnerability within herself, and she was seeking out this person who showed interest in her to fill that void. And he acted normal until it was too late. He had her trapped, he had her hooked, and what he was really doing was he had some sort of a defect where he actually had to literally suck life out of other individuals, which then killed them so that he could continue to live. So that's all he wanted from her, was to suck the life out of her so that he could go on to live until he started to deplete again and then needed a next victim. So that's kind of my movie type picture of emotional dependency and how it works. A term that you will probably hear often is codependency, and I think a lot of people, even professionals, and I'm no professional as far as training is concerned, I've just been through it and lived this stuff and come out on the other side, they will say the term codependent or codependency and say, like, to use myself as an example, they would say you are a codependent person. But suggests two. So you have co-teacher, co-operate, you have co-author, you have cooperative. For instance, like a farm co-op is short for farm cooperative. So all those suggest that you have at least two people or entities or groups in relationship. So it's hard for me to go along with saying that a single person who, say, is not in some sort of toxic relationship at that moment, although they may be seeking out a toxic relationship, whether they know it or not, is a codependent person, because at that point they don't have the other co. So the term that I would use to describe that is emotionally dependent. So that brings me to what is a good definition for codependency or codependent. Codependency involves a relationship where one person needs things from the other person, and the other person needs to be needed by that person. Both individuals are trying to use the other to fill a void within themselves. So to me, they are definitely along the same lines, and you can absolutely have, and it is actually very common to have, an emotionally dependent person who is in a codependent relationship, which is very toxic, very circular, and more than likely eventually it will end up in one or both sucking too much of life out of the other, and then there will be a big eruption. Sometimes it will be just a subtle, like, drifting away, but a lot of times there will be some sort of a dramatic eruption, and that severs the relationship, usually forever. So that's just a little bit about the definitions of codependency, but my focus being more on emotionally dependent. So this is just part 1 in a video series on emotional dependency. So if you want, you can check out my Instagram at Haylin Danielle Dalton. So thank you for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.